Stanley Burkhardt. The name once evoked respect in the corridors of New Orleans police precincts. A detective who built his career on bringing child abusers to justice. Yet, behind the badge and the commendations lay a dark, sinister secret. Burkhardt himself was a predator, preying on the very innocents he was sworn to protect. Burkhardt's story isn't just a tale of individual moral decay. It's a grim reflection of systemic failures, of a justice system that let a wolf guard the sheep. The dichotomy of his life as a lawman and a deviant speaks volumes about the blind spots in oversight and accountability within law enforcement. How did such a man slip through the cracks? And what does his case tell us about the vulnerabilities within our justice system? Stanley Burkhardt's criminal dossier reads like a horror novel. In the 1970s and 80s, Burkhardt was not only a detective, but also a predator who used his position to exploit and abuse minors. His crimes ranged from the possession and distribution of child pornography to the actual sexual abuse of children, including a 9-year-old girl related to him by marriage. In 1987, the law finally caught up with him. Burkhardt was convicted of mailing images depicting the molestation of underage boys to undercover agents. This conviction, however, was just the tip of the iceberg. Burkhardt's depravity ran much deeper, with many victims and numerous unreported incidents. Despite his conviction, Burkhardt continued his predatory activities, leading to further legal troubles. Burkhardt's crimes reveal the extent of his deviance and the failure of the system to detect and stop a predator cloaked in authority. Burkhardt's release from prison has stirred a cauldron of controversy. After years of incarceration and therapy, a federal judge, swayed by reports indicating his mental improvement, signed off on his transfer to a halfway house. The decision was jointly requested by federal prosecutors and Burkhardt's attorney. However, the public and his victims were far from convinced. The conditions of his release were stringent. Burkhardt was required to get approval for visitors, participate in sex offender therapy, gain employment, and maintain a detailed log of his movements. He was also prohibited from accessing internet sites or applications promoting pornography or casual sexual encounters. These measures, though strict, failed to pacify the anger and fear of those who knew his history. The backlash against Burkhardt's release underscores the tension between legal decisions and public sentiment. Burkhardt's criminal history has also led to the reopening of cold cases and murder claims. One of his victims, Richard Winman, claimed that Burkhardt boasted about killing a teenage boy who frequented New Orleans' French Quarter and was found dead in the nearby Mississippi River. This revelation prompted cold case detectives to re-examine the 1982 drowning death of Edward Wells. Authorities also revisited the strangulation killings of 3 other teenagers who frequented the French Quarter before being killed and dumped around the region in the late 1970s. Winman was interviewed by authorities investigating the deaths of Wells, Dennis Turcotte, Raymond Richardson, and Daniel Dewey. These investigations aimed to uncover any connections between Burkhardt and the unsolved murders. Despite these claims, a state police investigator testified that Burkhardt was not considered a suspect in the death of Wells. The reopening of these cold cases highlights the long shadow cast by Burkhardt's crimes. The release of Stanley Burkhardt has sparked a wave of controversy and reopened old wounds for many. Families of the victims haunted by the past find themselves reliving their darkest days. As the community grapples with this decision, the quest for justice and closure continues. Cold case detectives and loved ones of the lost are united in their pursuit of answers, determined to bring light to the shadows cast by Burkhardt's actions. Stay tuned for more updates on this developing story. Together we seek the truth and hope for healing.